So let's talk candidly about McCree for a second. I know I make a lot of videos bitching about how underpowered he is, which I think is true and why I'm doing this video in the first place, but obviously I need to make some clarifications because there are some distinctions about his playstyle that I feel need to be made before making any arguments on his behalf. So first of all, I state, and I still think it's true, that McCree is one of the worst heroes in the game, and he's the worst DPS in the game. If you look at the stats on MasterOverwatch.com and you look under heroes, McCree has a 45.2% win rate. He is the fifth worst hero. They had it Orisa, but I'm feeling like she's going to be higher. She's kind of strong. So the only people worse than McCree on win rates are Widowmaker, Hanzo, and Sombra, and I don't think that surprises anybody. Namely because those people just have a really bad rap in the game, but McCree, he still has kind of a good reputation despite being this low on the list. That's because McCree is the type of character who is very strong in the hands of a very good player, but in the hands of the average player, he's quite weak. He's at a disadvantage, which is why that percentage is, you know, 10% lower than Symmetra, who's the highest, at 55%, which really, I mean, it's not that bad of a discrepancy, really. Like, when you think about average overall strengths of characters, if you look at the game where someone has a 45% win rate versus a 55% win rate, it's far from a prediction to the outcome of the game, so it's not a massive difference, but I do think that McCree is just getting weaker and weaker, and especially with Orisa coming out, I've noticed that having her in the meta even weakens him even more, so his utility is dropping significantly. So I do think that Blizzard needs to find ways to increase McCree's utility while still making him bad in the hands of the average person compared to a really good person who's like, like that should be your reward for practicing the fuck out of McCree. It's like being a fucking like a Jedi. Like, many people will try this path and they will fail and they will be worse than average, but the people who really put their hearts to it, they will do really, really well. And I don't think that McCree is that right now. I think there's a few people who make him work at higher levels, but chances are they would probably do just as well playing 76 in that exact same role, because let's be real, you play that role when you need to kill Pharah, really. That's like the necessary reason for a hit scan. Like, the two roles are like raw damage and shooting people out of the sky. The only other thing that McCree has going for him is his stun, and I think that his stun right now just doesn't make any fucking sense. I've bitched about it being bad before, which I still think is true. It's fucking terrible, but it also just doesn't fit with his character. Like, why the fuck does a cowboy have a flashbang? In what cowboy movie do you see him whip out a little grenade onto their wrist and throw it? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So I think a rework of that one ability could stand to make McCree a lot stronger, and I also think his damage fall off, I think they need to tweak that up a little bit more. They brought it down significantly from back when he was overpowered. I mean, they've already nerfed him significantly. Like, they reduced the damage on his Peacemaker, they reduced the headshots on his Peacemaker, they've made it so his damage fall off does less damage at not even that far of a distance. And his roll has always sucked, and his ultimate sucks. Like, everything about him sucks. Everything about him sucks, except his gun at medium range can kill people faster than most other people's guns. So I think that they have scaled him back far enough now that it's time to start scaling him forward bit by bit to maybe give him a little more utility to the average player while still being rewarding, but not a must pick for the godlike player. And like I said, I think the way to do that is with his stun ability. It is his flashbang right now, but I think they could rework that to be slightly different. And in my opinion, the problem is that right now it's too hard to use for a whole bunch of reasons. Like, it stops on barriers, which it should. I'm not saying it shouldn't, I'm just naming all the cons. It stops on barriers, it gets reflected back by Genji, it's got a pretty short range, it's regularly just doesn't, like, the animation sucks on it, it like clips on bits of the level and doesn't actually hit people, so it's got a whole bunch of things not going for it, and I think you could address some of those things by changing the ability slightly, kind of making it a scaled down version of Reinhardt's ultimate. So when you look at what the things that Earthshatter has going for it. It is that it kind of just pushes forward in a line. It does hit into shields, which I think McCree's ability should do. It can't get reflected, and it's got a pretty big vertical range. So I think you could accomplish that with McCree by, instead of giving a dumbass fucking flashbang, why the fuck does a cowboy have a flashbang? You could do something like fucking Pocket Sand. You can go Rusty Shackleford on their asses, or Kick Up Dust, or like something that's more of a beam weapon style dust storm. And rather than being a projectile that flies and then explodes, it's more of a little cloud of stun in front of him. And I think that would solve a lot of the frustrating things with McCree's flashbang, where you feel like you should be getting off, but maybe it flies past them, which is totally possible to do. You can be standing next to someone, like right in front of them, but throw it over their shoulder and it'll explode behind them and it won't affect them. But if you had something that was more like a dust thing that propelled forward, then it would basically hit anyone in a cone shape, no matter where they were in front of them. Now, obviously, this would change how you use the ability to the point that lots of people are going to say it's overpowered and underpowered, and I think you could tweak it necessarily from there. Off the top of my head, I want to say it would probably be overpowered versus Genji, because he wouldn't be able to reflect back dust if it's treated like a beam weapon, so that you could, you would never want to get against Genji, or as McCree when you're playing Genji. It would be an almost overpowered, but I do think there's a lot of hard counters, and that would be fine. Like, he's supposed to be a hard counter, and I'm okay with that. Even though I play the fuck out of Genji, I play McCree and Genji a lot. They're my two most played characters, so I'm not just saying this because I'm favoring McCree, but right now, as it stands, it's a little too shitty. Like, Genji's just too good at always reflecting everything back at basically everyone. When McCree is supposed to be his counter, it just fucks you. Like, it gets you killed, and I realize that's how Genji's supposed to play, so it is a whole balance issue, but I think that could be addressed if, instead of being a cone, it again worked kind of like a scaled-down version of Earthshatter, where it sort of, if he, like, kicked it up, then it worked from the ground up. So a Genji would want to stay in the air versus McCree, so that it's really just people that are on ground level that are getting stunned by him. And like I said, this is just sort of like, yeah, this is like kind of like word soup. I'm sort of just like spitballing here with ideas at the top of my head, but I think that plus like tiny bit of scaled up damage on his Magnum would go a long way. And personally, I would opt to fix his ultimate in a number of ways. First of all, like, if you get a skull on someone and if they are a skull when you click, that should be a kill. Maybe all those bullets fire out at once, and it's just the animation that goes really fast, showing all the bullets, or just I don't know. But I wouldn't blame Blizzard if they don't want to do that. It seems like it's one of those types of things where you are sacrificing what makes sense in gameplay in order for balance, and I think you should strive to not do that. But ideally, if the game's always a work in progress, and they want to keep it balanced in spite of all these making these changes. So I wouldn't blame them if they didn't do that. I'm not gonna get mad. But one thing that is basically continuing to peeve me, despite all the things that are wrong with McCree as a character, is the fact that his flashbang it doesn't fit the fiction of his character. Like, I think like a cowboy, like, kicking up dust, that would make more sense to me, or like Pocket Sand or something, because he's not a good guy, he's not a bad, he's kind of dirty, he fights dirty sometimes. I can see him throwing sand in somebody's eyes. Like, however you want to do it, to me that makes the most sense. But if they don't want to fuck with his gun, because it already is pretty powerful in the hands of a good player, or his ultimate, which I think they just want to keep shitty because his gun is already powerful, that would make sense. But buffing his stun and making it fit more with the theme of his character is probably the easiest way to fix him and build up his win rate a little bit without overpowering him, because it is essentially the same ability as always. It has the same utility, only it's slightly different. It's less able to like hit people out of the air, like Genji and Pharah, so you're still relying on your gun to do that if it follows the ground instead of being a projectile that goes like 10 feet in front of you. But it gives you more utility in successfully, and also I think it should have like a by the way, this goes into my next thought, so I'm trying not to have too much ADD here, but it should be like Earthshatter, where if it does kick up like a pocket of dust, it's got a lingering area of effect for like a half a second or something, so that if you're trying to get Tracer, rather than like seeing her dash away or dash through the explosion, the pocket of dust would actually stun her if she walks into it, just like if you spit in the sand or whatever in real life. So that seems like the easiest balance to take. It wouldn't take too much. The thing is, I don't think Blizzard would actually do it, because we really don't see them adding a lot of like artwork fixes to existing characters. I think the closest we've seen to that is when they made Friendly Reaper's teleportation smoke clouds purple instead of red. But yeah, if you ask me, that is probably the most realistic way to bring McCree back up to where he used to be, because right now he is definitely getting shit on, and it feels like the developers are just picking on him all the time, mainly because it's just pretty obvious that they're making their decisions based on what the highest tier characters do, and they want to make sure that he's not. They want to make sure that no character in the game is a guaranteed pick at the highest levels of play, but I think right now he's such a shitty pick in the lowest levels of play that he really needs some love. That being said, there are characters like, I think Sombra is just so fucking down there. Her win rate's like, what's it, 37.8%. She is easily the worst, and I don't even think I think, like I said, you don't necessarily balance people by win rate, but you are having a character, by having a character who's not fun to play, or who loses all the time, you are essentially cutting the hero roster down to every single paying customer by one until they get fixed. So that's something that's been on my mind lately. I just figured I'd throw it out there, see if anyone agrees with me, if you have any other comments about maybe how to fix McCree and bring him up there while at the same time not like massively overpowering him. I do think this is an idea that warrants some kicking around and talking about, and we know that Blizzard actually has listened to some community ideas in the past, which is why I'm bothering to put this out right now. So like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you want to leave a like, that'd be great too. I don't fucking blame you if you don't, because I hate when people ask for likes. Anyways, I will catch you guys next time.